There's a war happening right now, not on some distant shore, not on news feeds or battle maps, but right inside your chest. You can't see the battlefield, but you've walked across it every day of your life. The restless nights when images replay like a bad movie. The tightness in your throat before you speak. The strange electric alert that hits your body before a decision. The enemy in that war has many faces and many names. But the one that sits in the general's chair is called fear. It doesn't arrive announcing itself with a trumpet. It sneaks in under the blankets of advice, love, habit, and story. It sounds a lot like you. It knows how to mimic kindness, and it loves to protect. But the protection it offers is the kind that keeps you alive without letting you live. Before we go any deeper, I'll give you something practical you can use in 60 seconds. Hold on to that promise, because later I'll hand you a compact ritual you can do the moment your chest tightens. For now, hear this. The question that changes everything is not whether you have fear. You do. The question is, who drives you or fear? Fear is not only emotional, it is biological. Imagine your brain as a theater built across 2 levels. Downstairs, in dim light, sits the amygdala, a quick-acting sentinel built long before smartphones and office politics. It was designed to keep your ancestors alive when a rustle in the grass could mean death. Upstairs, in a sunlit room, sits the prefrontal cortex, slow, reasoning, capable of weighing long-term consequences and imagining futures. The amygdala shouts first. The prefrontal cortex answers later. That design saved human lives for millennia, but in the modern world, it misfires. The same alarm that read Tiger now reads public speaking, asking for a raise, or leaving a safe relationship. The software never got updated. Your hardware got better at imagining threats. This mismatch is the quiet origin of a lot of what we call anxiety, hesitation, and the small deaths of deferred dreams. You weren't born afraid of the dark or of failing. Babies cry and explore indiscriminately. Fear's architecture is built on experience and story. Remember a memory from childhood when a voice sharpened like glass? Be careful, don't do that. You'll embarrass yourself. Those phrases spoken with urgency or worry were not neutral. To a child, the world is a pattern-making machine. A single shouted warning can hard-code a template. Act gives danger, gives shame. That primitive template becomes the lens through which many later choices are viewed. Over time, warnings stack into signs along the road of your life. Danger here, don't take that turn. You grow up, move houses, change jobs. But the signs remain. You stand at the threshold of something new, and your brain flashes an old street lamp. Red. That map, not the present moment, often decides your next step. Fear's greatest talent is not to terrify you into paralysis outright. It's far subtler. It convinces you to wait. Now, it whispers. Prepare more. Learn one more thing. Make sure. And so you rehearse courage instead of practicing it. Time passes. Preparation becomes procrastination. The world shrinks around your refusal. You fear the pain of failure more than the slow ache of a life unlived. Opportunities die not with a bang, but with polite postponement. And you look up years later, surprised to find your map narrow and your territory small. As John Ashed wrote, "A ship in harbor is safe, but that's not what ships are built for." If you are honest, you'll recognize the harbor you've chosen, and you'll see how safe has become a fine-grained prison. Fear uses the brain's natural biases like a locksmith uses picks. It leans on negativity bias, the tendency to remember one insult and forget the many compliments, and on what researchers call availability heuristics, the brain's shortcut that treats vivid, recent events as more likely than they really are. Tell yourself a dramatic story about rejection, and your body floods with hormones as if it's happening in real time. Imagination, then, is fear's engine, which means imagination can also be its undoing. The same faculty that conjures doom can be trained to conjure courage. You might want a secret, a single phrase that disarms fear immediately. There is one, and it's simple. Name it. When the tightness begins in your chest, say silently or out loud, "This is my survival system activating." Those 6 words shift processing from the amygdala to the prefrontal cortex. They create a sliver of distance between you and the feeling. Scientists call it cognitive reappraisal. Poets call it naming the monster. In practical terms, naming takes the story out of the body and puts it into the mind where you can rewrite it. Try it now. Picture a small fear, speak the sentence, and notice the tiny space that opens. That space is where choice returns. But naming alone isn't enough. Fear is stubborn. It needs practice and a plan. Here is a micro practice you can do in 2 minutes when the chest tightens. Pause, breathe, label, act. Step 1. Pause and place a hand on your chest. Step 2. Breathe, inhale for 4 counts. Hold 2. Exhale for 6. This is a paced exhale to calm the nervous system. Step 3. Label, whisper. This is my survival system. Step 4. Act, make the smallest outward movement toward the thing you fear. Open your mouth to say one line. Take 1 step out the door. Send 1 message. Doing this repeatedly builds what I call courage habit. Small, compulsive victories that add up. There are stories that show the point more clearly than theory. Consider a woman I'll call Mara, who spent a decade convinced she couldn't speak without crying. In college, she'd been humiliated in a seminar. One professor's scorn braided into her nervous system. For years, job interviews were mountains climbed on hands and knees. She started with micro-exposure. 1 minute of speaking in front of a closed-door mirror, then a friend, then a small group. She kept a log of tiny wins. Each small success rewired a pathway that had been beaten by fear. 2 years later, she stood in a packed hall and spoke for 20 minutes. That transformation wasn't magic. Creative contraction of the gap between fear and action. Fear can also be used. Imagine it not as an enemy, but as a wild river. If you try to dam it with your hands, you get swept away. If you learn to ride it, its force becomes propulsion. That's the reframing trick. Translate adrenaline into excitement. The body's physiology for fear and excitement is nearly identical. Heart rate rises, breath shortens, attention narrows. All you change is the story. I am terrified becomes I am thrilled. Athletes do this every day when they interpret pre-race nerves as readiness. You can do it too. Pick a phrase that works for you. This is energy for what's next, or my body is ready. Repeat it in the moment and watch how chemistry follows narrative. Another essential tactic is to examine the contracts you've signed with fear. Many people live by invisible agreements. If I fail, I won't recover. If I speak, I will be rejected forever. I must be perfect. These are not facts. They are narratives you learn to believe. Challenge them. Write the worst case up fully, and then write your plan for recovery. The act of scripting a contingency often robs the imagined calamity of its terror. Reality is less absolute than the story you tell. There's also a social element. Fear feeds on isolation. When you keep dread secret, it grows monstrous. When you name it to another person or confess one small worry to a friend, it shrinks. Vulnerability is not weakness, it is data sharing. Saying I'm scared to a trusted person diffuses the charge. You might be surprised how frequently other people answer, "So am I." Shared fear becomes a platform for mutual courage. Throughout history, some cultures developed rituals specifically to harness fear and turn it into initiation. Think of rites of passage, moving through a controlled, intense experience to emerge changed. You can create mini rites for yourself. A single-day fast, a 3-hour timeout from screens, a daring conversation. These acts are symbolic bridges that signal to your brain a new status, not someone who is afraid, but someone who faces it and returns. Now, if you've been following the curiosity loops I promised, the single sentence to rewire, the 60-second practice, and the idea of riding the river, there's one deeper trick left, an almost counterintuitive move that many find the hardest but most rewarding. It's called thank you, fear. When you feel fear, take a moment to say, "Thank you for the energy." That line acknowledges fear's role as protector and immediately reframes it as servant, not master. People who practice this consistently report that fear loses its edginess. It still arrives, but it does so as a courier, not a tyrant. Some practical exercises to anchor this. Every morning for 21 days, write one sentence that scares you slightly. A short, uncomfortable intention. Maybe it's "I will speak up in the meeting," or "I will ask for feedback." At night, record one small action you took toward it. This creates a feedback loop. Intention, action, reflection. Momentum compounds. Momentum compounds. Tiny acts accumulate into internal architecture that no external event can topple. Remember, fear is not an enemy to eradicate. It is a signal to be read, translated, and sometimes used. Marcus Aurelius put it well: "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. Strength is less about silencing fear and more about enrolling it in service of your aims. Imagine a pianist practicing scales until the fingers obey the music. Fear, too, can be practiced into an instrument rather than a veto. Toward the end of this journey, imagine two versions of your life 1 year from now. In the first version, fear keeps steering. Projects tabled, conversations avoided, quiet resignation. In the second, fear still arrives, but you greet it with naming, breath, and a small step. You take the first lesson, send the draft, make the call, say the truth. Which future feels truer to the person you want to be? The answer matters because it decides the trajectory of your years. Finally, here is a compact 9-breath ritual to use anywhere. 1. Inhale, noticing the tightness. 2. Hold and feel. 3. Exhale and say, "This is my survival system." 4. Inhale, imagining possibility. 5. Hold. 6. Exhale and speak one tiny action aloud. 7. Inhale with resolve. 8. Hold. 9. Exhale and move. It takes about 30 seconds. It's not a cure-all, but it is a bridge from paralysis to momentum. So now, after everything you've heard, the biology, the stories, the hacks, the rituals, the only thing left is what you will do with it. Fear will not disappear because you asked it politely. It will change its strategy and show up in new clothes, old voices, and quiet whispers. Your work is to become fluent in its language, to notice, name, reframe, and act. Ask yourself every day, who drives? You can be the one in the driver's seat. You can use fear like wind behind a sail. You can choose to step, and then step again. Go ahead, pick one small, honest thing that scares you, and do it within the next hour. Then tell someone. Then do the next small thing tomorrow. That's how wars end. Not in single grand battles, but in countless tiny victories. Thank fear for the energy, and then take the wheel. The battle inside your chest is the only war that matters. Win it, and you win the life waiting on the other side.